We're back, baby. It's the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Nick Kreider, Alexander Tesopoulos, and the Quan Cosby. Get your horns up. Coming off a bye week, the Texas Longhorns are facing the Houston Cougars. Yes, we did suffer a loss from OU, but that's in the past. We do foresee ourselves playing against them if we run the table and if OU runs the table. I mean, that's probably going to end up being what the conference championship is. But Q, coming out of a bye week, coming off of a loss the week before a bye week, what are the things that, you tell a locker room to get prepared and get refocused for a team like Houston, who hasn't been the best team this season, but has squeaked a couple wins in their schedule?
Yeah, dude, man, it's you never want to lose Oklahoma. We all know that. We talked about it last week, but what that does is make it really easy to practice your guys pretty hard. We had some injuries, so you got to be careful. You have to do it strategically, but I think the guys are fired up. In my opinion, there's no way in HE double hockey sticks there's going to be that trap game in Houston. They saw what happened with West Virginia, who was also undefeated who was undefeated in the Big 12 at the time. But it also allows you to kind of self-reflect. You watch film after every game, after every practice, but after a loss, you can coach a little bit harder. You can see where, they attack you or where you just have weaknesses. And I know they talk about it a lot in Austin, and we talked about it as well. Getting on the 1 yard line and not scoring, that's a big issue. But when you have 2 weeks to prepare or a week to kind of really go back and see where you can grow and get better, I think it was worse than what we thought. What I've heard, and I mean, we're like 120 something in the red zone. Like, that's unacceptable for a team with that many weapons.
Yeah.
And so that's what bye weeks do. They let you. I know I listened to Sark this week, and he said, "Oh, I'm looking at the play caller, I'm looking at the sequences, I'm looking at the alignments and all the above." I'm a little old school, and I think when you put the big boys in there, you're on the one, you should run them over and freaking score a touchdown. And we didn't do that, especially again. Jonathan Brooks is one of the best backs in the country. So there's so many layers. Then something's going wrong in that. So long way of saying, I think there's a lot of growth, self-reflection, and quite frankly, just doing and making adjustments to get better, especially and specifically in the red zone.
Yeah, and not only does a bye week provide longer rest periods for players, more preparation, but I think coming out of bye week, I mean, as a player, you can attest to this, that you're just hungry to get back out on the field. Like you're playing with a little bit more, ferocity, and you're excited to be out there. It's kind of like back in week one where you're getting on the field for the first time. I mean, as Texas fans, like seeing ourselves being so good this year, right? 5-1, number 8 in the nation. Pretty awesome that we had a bye week and still moved up in the rankings from 9 to 8. But I'm itching. On last Saturday, I was bummed out that we have nothing to watch. But I feel like these players probably felt the same thing. I think they probably went and enjoyed themselves in Austin a little bit. They had ACL to go, keep themselves entertained. Hopefully, no one got into trouble and no one got sick or too messed up. But yeah, in the field for the first time in 2 weeks, I feel like you got to feel good about your players, getting back in the groove and getting back in the win column.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Texas Longhorns have not been efficient in the red zone, as you mentioned, Q, and it mirrors the same thing with the Dallas Cowboys, who have also been one of the most inefficient teams in the red zone as well. Go figure, they also have a bye week this week after they had a close win against the Los Angeles Chargers. But it's eerie.
Chargers.
Yeah.
Chargers going Charger.
Yeah, serious. The Cowboys almost Charger. That was like a couple of pretenders that game looked like, just as far as whether or not they're Super Bowl caliber teams. But it's what you do. You go and you correct what your mistakes are, and you fix some of the issues. Guys get healthy, which is great. I like that this game is on the road. I think that'll help us. Dana Holgorsen and that they're going to try and do some things on offense. They don't have an OC. They're similar to us in that capacity. He likes to take on the play calling, just like Steve does, just like Sark does. And I think it'll be a nice challenge, an opportunity for us to start back after the bye week, running the football, and with our defense making a true impact in this game. Like that's what I'm really keyed in on. But I think, with our weapons available, with JT healthier, right? Like our red zone opportunities and our chances get a lot better automatically. And he wasn't at full health in that Oklahoma game. So with JT, with AD, with Xavier Worthy and Jonathan Brooks, and said be getting healthy as well, I think we have all of our red zone options available to us. Of course, Jay Witt, we love him, but he's more of a middle of the field type of guy as we're making that drive. But who knows? He'll probably catch 2 touchdowns now that I just said that. But yeah, I think it's going to be good for us to kind of take it one game at a time, but continue to tune up this offense, which before the OU game, I said we had not seen the best of our offense yet, especially from a pass attack standpoint. So they're going to try and throw the ball on us. But I think we just do what we do: time of possession, run the football, and then try and get Quinn out of there by the end of the third quarter. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I agree. We've definitely not seen the best of our offense. I mean, we haven't put up more than 40 points in a game all season. And, we've played not,
That's so hard to kind of realize that we
yeah.
haven't scored 40 with our weapons.
I mean, like back in the day, like Texas hanging 60, 50, like that's a normal thing. And especially if it's a team that's supposed to make a run. Obviously Bama, OU, like good defenses, but I mean, how are we not scoring over 40 against Rice? How are we not scoring over 40 against Wyoming? Same thing with Baylor. I mean, our defense shows up for all these games, but I really want to see them break out and hang, a 50, 60 piece. And this Houston team, it's very doable because West Virginia put 39 on them last week. They barely squeaked that one off. That was a crazy game that we were talking about over text. Texas Tech week before that put 49 on them. Rice put 43 on them. So, I mean, we should be able to score on this team and get that offense really clicking.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. And that's the wild thing about it. Going back to this bye week, saying what's happening. Our defense has been balling. Our defense, again, I mean, hell, they turn it over and they hold them to 3. So our defense is giving them. Well, I take that back. One of the issues is that I know the one game we kept muffing freaking punts and kicks, but it's just really, I think we've been so damn good. We've overcome a lot of that until we didn't, until we ran into another top 10 team. And if we're going to call ourselves or want to get to that level of elite, we can't do that. We have to do better. We have to grow. We have to figure out where we're going. And I think that's what this bye week certainly helped. I remember we were talking in the beginning of the season before it all started, and it's wild that we're 6-7 games in, and we're saying, oh well, what's up with our offense? I remember saying the receiving core, on paper, they're the best, maybe, especially 1 through 6, to ever be in the locker room, but they have to prove it. And that's where we are. We haven't proved it yet. On paper, it looks the part. Our own line improved and all the above. The one thing that, in my opinion, from an offensive standpoint, that we have done that may not have been, I guess, project was Brooks. That dude's balling.
Yeah.
I mean, he's freaking top 2, 3 back, and maybe that factors into the pass game and all that, but not really. Hell, play action is Quinn's pretty damn good at it. Now we just need to figure out the better way and the best way to execute the pass game like we have. I mean, we started like freaking Usain Bolt on offense last year in Sark's first couple of years. So now we fixed the fourth quarter and we're starting like so Donkey Kong on Mario Kart. Like we got to figure out how to put it all together. And hopefully this week gave them some insight and some put in some work to make that correction, because we still have yet to play a complete game. We had that many turnovers, and they still took a last-minute drive for them to beat us. So we can be and are that good. We just got to just dig a little bit deeper, make a few more adjustments, and get to where we're in that complete game form. And if we do that, like you started it off with, Nick, if we do that, there should be a rematch in the Big 12 championship. And I mean, the storylines that will happen if that works itself out.
Yeah, 100%. And shout out to Jonathan Brooks getting a midseason All-American nod by ESPN. I mean, we know how special he is, and it's awesome that the rest of the country's being able to see that. I mean,
I don't know if he was preseason All Big 12 and now he's getting that nod.
Nope, was not for sure. I mean, we might have another Doak Walker Award winner this season. I mean, he's putting up insane numbers, and that just is a classic case of a guy sitting behind Bijan Robinson, a guy who goes in the first round, who's a generation running back. But Yeah, I mean, I love seeing Jay Brooks, get all the love, and I really hope that he continues to do this. And getting the run game going again against Houston is going to be huge and key here, especially against a really shaky team like Houston. So let's talk about some takeaways and some things that we're looking for in this game. Toss, you start us off, Q, then I'll go on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we said it already, right? It's about Brooks. It's about this running game and starting early. And I think that doesn't mean that we have to take deep shots down the field and hit one for 70 yards over the top on our first offensive drive. I'd like to see said involved in this game as well. I mean, we're talking about JB going into week 1 of this season. Like it wasn't his position really. Like it was going
Oh,
to
he
be.
didn't even start the season.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was going to be split between he and Said B. Said B was probably going to be the starter. And that just goes to show you have to be ready when a guy goes down on it, due to injury, which always happens in college football, NFL, you name it, high school. You have to be ready to step up. And Jonathan Brooks was ready to step up. So even more just kudos to him for being ready mentally to take on the mantle and do what he does and trust his talent. But, I'd love to see us just run all over them for 250 plus yards collectively as a team over the bye week. Sark was really complimentary about Savion Red and that package that we have with him and that Wildcat. And of course, we've got Jaden Blue too, who's, he's averaging 5 yards a carry as well. He's been quite productive at times during the season. So I just want to see that rushing yards just up, up, up. And, we're favored by 23.5 points in this game. And we probably will have to put up 40 plus points if we want to cover that. Maybe not because our defense is so stout, but let's do it anyway. Let's put up 40 plus points and let's run for 250 plus yards against this team.
Yeah. Q.
Well, if we run for 250, then we need 600 yards of offense because this Houston's defense is suspect, and
big time.
especially their secondary. I mean, really all of the above. Their defense is like really bottom 10 in the country. So
Yep.
I'm with you on the run offense and what Brooks have done. But a game like this, Quinn's confidence coming off a tough week. He had a couple of turnovers. I want to see him get back in the mix. I want to see 4 touchdowns. I want to see, again, we got a healthy Sanders. Go him. Mitchell didn't have one last week. Get him back in the mix. Worthy. Let's go deep on him. And then last but not least, Sark talked a lot about not playing not Jonathan Brooks, but my man Cooks, the freshman. Let's see him go off. Let's see his speed. Jonte, let's go. So really, and of course, my bias, I always want my boy Jay Witt to catch him about 6-7 balls. And so I think if you're doing that, and this is a crazy piece, I don't think we're talking crazy. I think we can run for 250 and throw for 350. It's just how explosive our offense can be. I just want to put it all together from an offensive standpoint. So yeah, I like that. Jay Brooks, couple of touchdowns. Quinn throws for 4. And I'm gonna like where we are if all that works itself out.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I mean, Quinn in the OU week, he tripled his interception ratio now, and he's got 3 picks now this season through 2 against OU. I think he had a fumble as well. So I'd really like him to see not to turn the ball over. Clean slate all around, nice, completion percentage. But a lot of that also relies on the offensive line. I really want them to give him a clean pocket all game long. Hopefully he doesn't get hit too many times, no sacks, because they got bullied around by the D line that OU threw at us, and wasn't really something that I expected because we always praised our O line, right? Being big boys, it's a young group, but they're strong, and there's probably a couple of first round draft picks in there. So really kind of want them to get back in the mix and keep them clean. On the defensive side, I'd like to see the linebackers kind of take more control of the game as well. I think that was one of the weaknesses in the OU game. Just kind of a lot of miscommunication. They look kind of lost at times in the pass game. The run stopping was great, but this Houston team definitely airs it out. So I'd like to see them kind of switch more and be able to kind of cover the running backs out the backfield and attack those slant routes. I mean, I think the highlight of our defense last week was our secondary, which is kind of not usually the case for us. We always have a ferocious front seven, but getting the big boys more involved and letting them kind of take control, getting a couple sacks on the defensive side would be nice. What about you guys?
I think OU exposed a little bit of something. And really traditionally we run the hell out of the ball. We do well. But what was a little weird with this go around was they they actually still didn't run the ball that great with their running backs.
Mm-mm.
But it was their quarterback and it was called plays. I mean, Dylan Gabriel fake and then took it and led
Yeah.
with the line. One of the reasons Ford didn't have his best game is that running back was taking him on and Dylan Gabriel took off. Now that was probably 7, well, maybe 8 scheduled. And then of course, if his guys were covered, like you said, our secondary had a really good day actually. He took off and made us look pretty silly from that standpoint too. So we that's always been a weird kind of kryptonite, in my opinion, in the last like freaking 10 years of running quarterbacks killing us. And again, let's be real. That's universal. That's the
Yeah.
reason. That's the reason. Now, nobody out here is Lamar Jackson, but that's the reason he just got the contract he did. And even freaking Pat Mahomes, he'll get his good 50 or 60 a game. That's perfectly timed. But just being able, but it takes discipline from my standpoint. Really, as great as Michael Vick was, Michael Vick got stopped because of the discipline of the teams he was playing. And so just getting back to that form, defense taking it very personal, what OU did to him, and just going crazy on this offense. That is good. I mean, they like to throw it over the top, and we saw that in the crazy game in West Virginia. They're not afraid to air it out.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
Donovan Smith, their quarterback, is really talented. I mean,
dude, he can go. I mean, and he can go. And so really, and by the way, I know we talk about backup quarterback and all that, but they face some pretty damn good quarterbacks and Dylan and JT and some of these, of course, old boy Alabama, who's proven to be a lot damn better than people wanted to give him credit for. So they just need to get back to that form where they're controlling that. I'm not saying that they kind of start looking at the social media and the love they were getting and took that 49-0 effort the previous year in the Dallas, but maybe they did, and now they're pissed off, and they can get back to, especially from a defensive standpoint, they can get back to form because before that game they were one of the top 5 defenses in the country, and they got a lot to prove on a really good offense to get back to that. Well, at least get that respect back.
Yeah, no doubt. Dylan Gabriel was very impressive in my opinion. I mean, best quarterback we've seen. He entered the Heisman conversation. I mean, it's still a big gap between Michael Penix Jr. and the rest of the pack, but Dylan Gabriel at least put himself, I think, in top 5 in odds for Heisman. Toss. Defensive takeaway. What are you looking for here?
Yeah, I think just cleaning up the tackling and converting our pressure into sacks, right? Those are the 2 things that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I thought that we had our poorest tackling game against the Oklahoma Sooners. And I think that if we can clean that up, we can look better there, and I can see that we address that in the bye week. That's going to give me a lot more comfort for this team going forward. I don't think we're going to face offensive skill players or a quarterback that are better than what our defense can present facing up against the opposing team's offenses that we have on the remainder of the schedule. And I think I want to see us win every single week in that way. Yep. I want to see us, sack the quarterback more than 2 times a game. I want to see us not miss any tackles to leave no doubt, right? Every single game. And I think, a lot of that it'll be cool to see Hill's snap count go up week after week after week. I want to see him make a name for himself on our defense and continue to do that. He was one of my standouts in that game against Oklahoma. I thought he played with a lot of poise and a lot of maturity for a freshman. And I expect him to continue to grow and to continue to impress, as did a guy like, Harold Perkins last year on LSU. Started slow, but then he got really hot at the end of the season. Everyone was talking about him. And I think Anthony Hill can be in that same conversation. Yeah, I think with the running quarterback, it's about missing tackles, right? Because a lot of times their offensive line and running back or whoever they have back there, tight ends, are lining up with our front 6, front 5, whoever it is. And then we have one guy who has to make that tackle on the quarterback when he gets out of the pocket and he tries to take it upfield. And if you miss that tackle, you're in a position where the rest of your guys are downfield, your DBs are on their assignment, right? And at that point, he's going to get 10, 15, 20 yards, or on that one long run that Gabriel had where he got 35 or whatever it was. So it's I think just the missing tackles is something that's the only thing I'm really looking for.
Yeah, for sure. All time, Texas is 16-7-2 against the Houston Cougs since they started playing in 1953. Last time we've played them was 2002. As Toss alluded to earlier, the line for this game is 23.5 in favor of Texas. What are our predictions here? Toss?
Dude, oh, you go, Toss?
No, you go, Q.
Go. Well, no, man. You know what, Nick, man, that's the thing, bro. I get it. They did have a big game versus West Virginia, and that meant a lot. Hell, that meant a lot to Dana Holgorsen. Let's be real here. You know, it's funny. I was so surprised national media didn't talk more about that being his former squad.
Yep.
And then him beating them in the fashion that he did. I'm sure he had a very fun night afterwards. But nah, man. With Texas, two things. We always talk about they're going to get everyone's best. Well, the Big 12 is having a rough year. So they're really going to get even more because that exit and as people say, you know, I heard Oklahoma saying, you know, people are talking smack and they're like, listen, we're going to see y'all again. They're like, that's okay. We got the last one in the Big 12. And that's what you're going to get. As crazy as that is, as crazy as game, you know, probably if all works itself out, they're going to see each other again. But what that meant for them getting the last one in the Big 12, you know, what it meant for us, they didn't have a great season to get the last one on A&M. They're going to get everybody's best. And coaches who maybe, I mean, I get it, they beat West Virginia, but Holgorsen, in my opinion, is still on the hot seat. You know, he have a rough season for the rest of it.
I think he's on record saying a fan came up to me and said, "You can win every single game, but if you beat Texas, you deserve to stay."
Exactly. That's it.
The sentiment,
that's how they
right?
feel.
Yeah.
That's how they feel. So we better be disciplined because they're gonna throw everything under the sun out, like we always talk about. They're gonna play all these cats from Houston, a lot of chip on their shoulder because they're not wearing the burnt orange. And so I think that's it. We better be ready for it. That they're going to come out with that same sense of urgency, which blew my mind that we didn't match it for a couple of quarters in Dallas, but they're going to come out with that same energy. That they're going to try to be more physical. So I say all that to say, like I said, I want 4 passing touchdowns, a couple of running. I think we're going to have a breakout game. I think and I haven't called it that. I think 49-17.
Oh, wow. That's a big one. I'm going to go in a similar kind of line, but I'm going to go 53. I think we're going to crack 50. 53-21. In favor of the Horns.
Yeah, and the over-under is 61.5 in this game. So, Q, what'd you say? 49-17. So you're going over. Nick's going over. I will go Texas covers the spread, but the over does not hit. I think we're going to win this game 45-10.
Oh.
And the one thing I do want to point out about us not having a 40-plus point game, because of the rule changes with the clock in college football, I think we've been in a position where because we do run the ball a lot, and against some of the teams that we played, like when Wyoming played us, the third quarter, they had the ball for almost 10, 11 of those total 15 minutes, right? Because they wanted to keep the ball out of our hands. The only way we get that 40 plus, 50 plus that we want is if we score early, but we just had the bye week. So if we can't execute in the first quarter, I'm going to be scratching my head and being like, well, what were we working on? Because
dude, that's my point. I get what you're about to say, but I'm like, dude, we just had a bye week. And by the way, the other top 10 teams, they're putting up 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Right. No excuse. Yeah. We don't have a lot of excuses if we can't put up 40 on this team, and really just wipe the floor with them. So 45-10 is my prediction. Let's get up early on them. And like I said, get Quinn out of there for the fourth quarter. I want to see some Malik action. I want to see our other guys get some run. I want to see Jonte Cook get 100 yards because he stays in the fourth quarter and catches a deep ball late in the game, right? Like get him involved early, but then make sure that he hammers him home late.
Right.
Yeah.
And you take care of business the way you do, even though you got a healthier JT. If he can just get even a little more break on that baby in the fourth quarter, he gets that much more help. It's just so many things that could work itself out if you go.
Said be in the fourth, right? Getting good reps, right?
Yes,
all of it.
Now he still needs to stay healthy because he's gotten plenty of touches if he can keep himself in the game.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're the only team in the top 10 thus far who has not scored over 40 points. So it's time for us to get in that column and score that many points. Horns Up, Talking Texas podcast. Let's get a win against Houston, and let's head into BYU 6-1, and hopefully moving up in the rankings. Nick Kreider, Alexander Tsopoulos, and the Quan Cosby. Horns Up, baby.
Hook 'em.
Hook 'em, baby.